Hello, 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 and welcome back, all you spectators, to the latest episode of Spectales. I'm the man in the chair with the average hair, Jake, alongside the 9.8 Dragon Slayer himself, Jesus. What's cooking, Jesus?
Part-time 9.8 Dragon Slayer, only when CGC allows me. Sometimes I slay these 9.8. Sometimes they say, hey, pump the brakes. Pump the brakes. You've slayed too many of them. We got to give you some 9.6s and 9.4s. So,
Gotcha.
But yeah, everything's going good, man.
9.8 if permitted. I get you. All right.
Yep.
Well, thanks to all you returning spectators out there. And if you're a first-time listener, thanks for lending us your ear holes for a bit. Spectales is a comic book podcast that has collectors and creators. What's your Grail tale? Every week, we discuss stories about collecting the comic grails we love, how they were obtained, and how they inspired new creativity.
We also break down some comic book market speculation and how, as collectors, we can help the hobby pay for itself.
Now, if you're sitting somewhere out there and thinking to yourself, man, I really love this Spectales podcast, then please consider supporting our show in one of the following ways.
You could head over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leave us a 5-star review, only 5-star, which helps other comic lovers and connoisseurs find us.
Or you can support us by subscribing to our Patreon for $3.99 per month. Through Patreon, you can get access to even more content from me and Jesus, exclusive content, and all the money goes directly into the show. To learn more, you can use the link in our show notes or head over to patreon.com and search Spectales.
This week, we've got the one and only A.A. Ron himself from AA Comics joining us to make a case for why he believes DC should be getting more love in the speculation market.
But don't worry, everybody. Jesus made sure to tell A.A. Ron exactly how we feel about DC Comics around here. Didn't you, Jesus?
They're crap. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Don't get upset, guys.
So check your calendar to make sure you've got the date right and clear your schedule because we're going to Home Depot this afternoon, if there's enough time. This is episode 40.
This is a conspiracy. That's what this is.
Just begging to course its way through your veins.
Let's just for a moment speculate, shall we?
You're into comic books, aren't you?
I'm a nerd.
But you do like comic books.
Comic books aren't just for sad nerds anymore.
Do you think we need one more?
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Do you think we need one more?
Objection, calls for speculation, move to strike.
This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea.
All right, we'll get one more.
Spectales, a comic book podcast with Jake and Jesus.
Thanks again for tuning in, spectators, for the latest episode of Spectales. Joining us for the first time on Spectales is our friend Aaron from AA Comics on YouTube. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, Jake? Jesus, thanks for having me, guys. Happy to be here. Excited to talk comics.
What's going on, Aaron, man? Thank you for joining us. And I do want to say a couple things. Some might say the best dressed in the comic book community. He's not wearing it today, which is the second time, that's the second thing I want to talk about. This is a Inception episode because Aaron joined us on Floppies and now he gets to join us on Spectale, which we're really excited about. Thank you.
I'm going to win. I can feel it. I'm going to win that, by the way.
I think we need to go into a little bit of background on that. So for the April Floppies episode, which is our Patreon exclusive podcast, Aaron joined us along with Ryan from Automatic Comics and Mickey from Swaggle Comics, and we did a comic book fantasy draft. So each of us participated in the draft. We drafted specific books, and over the next 6 months, we're going to keep track of the books, how their value goes up or down, and based on that, we will each get points. Aaron here, his team name is the Calendar Men.
100%.
So if you want to hear that draft and the what books we all selected, go back to our Patreon page, patreon.com, search for Spectales, subscribe to our Patreon, and you will get that episode and every other episode of Floppies that we have available. But that's the sales pitch for Patreon. Jesus. This week we've got Aaron. You're on. You are not wearing your tuxedo. For those of you who are not familiar with Aaron's YouTube account, he regularly appears in a suit and tie. Very, very business formal. Although he doesn't wear a hat, and but he provides a lot of really good information. Not mostly, I guess a large chunk of it is DC focused, correct?
Yeah, I try and hit the big three, I guess, Marvel, DC, Image. And then honestly, I've veered off into other places as well. But yeah, I try and do a lot of random eclectic DC. And I think I kind of became known as the Batman guy, even though I think I'm into everything, but I understand. But I'm definitely into Batman, so it's all good.
And what's with the suit? Why the suit and tie?
So if kind of when I started off my channel was it was sort of right before COVID. So I guess two big things happened. One was I was fighting. It was kind of, I guess, a critique of being a nerd, specifically a comic nerd. It's like, they're not well dressed. They're not well spoken. They're people who don't really have social skills. They're uncomfortable. They're just guys with no sunlight in their basement. And I kind of wanted to fight some of that critique. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to put on like a nice shirt and tie, and I'm going to do my thing on camera and just own it 100% and kind of push back on some of that. And then all the talk show hosts started doing their from home COVID late night shows in regular clothes, not getting dressed up. So I thought, yeah, this is kind of funny. Like, so the late night shows who get paid to do this, they're at home not getting dressed up. So I'm going to double down and keep getting dressed up. And then it just kind of stuck. And I felt like I couldn't not do it at that point. I was like, 10 videos in, and I was like, all right, we're just going to do this from now on. This is just, and it's honestly great for when I'm out in public hunting, because people are so used to seeing me in the suit that a lot of times they don't recognize me, which is great for trying to get deals.
So if you go out with a suit, people are going to they're going to be like, nah, I'm not going to give you a deal. I know who you are.
I know who you are. Yeah. So
yeah, you got to dress for success though, right? That's what Jesus always says.
The job you want. I think on one of the episodes where I had a Hulk 181, I was like, dress for the comic book you want. So I'm always going to be like this because my comics are completely out of reach. Tech 27, Batman 1. But someday.
You'll get there. As long as you keep wearing those suits, man, you'll get there.
All right. Well, for those of you who have never listened to Spec Tales before, we are a comic book podcast, and we have three basic segments. We always start every episode off with recent pickups. We then move into the Grail Tale segment, where Aaron here will tell us a story about a comic book Grail that is important to him, how he collected it, why it's important, all of whatever he wants to make it. And then we close every episode with speculation. We will go around the horn, and each one of us will deliver some comic book or collectible we feel is undervalued and could be worth some more money in the future.
Let's do it.
Recent pickups.
All right, the recent pickups segment. Jesus, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, man. I got something that I finally picked up. It's a couple weeks late from New Comic Book Day. I still haven't read it, but I was going to pick it up, and I'm going to enjoy it one way or another. This is Something That's Killing the Children, number 21. It caught my eye, even if I wasn't a fan of this, but this cover is just really dope. I don't even know what cover it is, A, B, or C cover on it. But it's just awesome. So far, the story's been awesome. Where 20 left off, I've been excited to read it, and I just can't believe I haven't read it. I picked it up probably a week ago, and I just haven't gotten around to it. So after tonight, I'm staying up tonight, and hopefully this doesn't keep me up because it is a horror book. But Something That's Killing the Children, number 21. That's my recent pickup. I'm really excited about it. Please don't ruin it for me if you read it already. And that's my recent pickup.
Spoiler, no spoiler.
The series is great.
You're going to enjoy it. Yeah, I think you're going to enjoy it. Yep.
All right, cool.
If you like if you like where this series was when it left off, you're gonna like where it picks back up. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
such a great book. Tinian's been killing it. I did that on purpose.
On everything.
On everything. Yeah, this is really great that you mentioned this because I picked up the trade.
Oh,
So
nice.
I finally am caught up with all the trades, which there's 4 of. And same thing, just great read, top to bottom. I always finish the issue wanting more, which is great.
So I have a question for you on that. So that's through 20 then, right? It's through issue 20?
Yes. Yeah, it's 4 is 16 through 20. Yeah.
16 through 20. Okay. And so the next, are you gonna pick up issue 21 or are you gonna wait for the next trade?
So I have all the single issues as well. Yeah, okay. I double dip with this series. So I have all the AB, and then this one has like A, B, and C. I have all the ABC covers, a few of the variants. And I hopped on late, so actually I have a good portion of the series in 9/8 that I sent in, with the exception of 1A.
Wow, you're missing that 1A.
I even have like the New York Comic-Con Jenny Friesen cover.
Yep.
I bought that raw and sent it in, and it came back a 9A. I even have that one, but I don't have 1A. So I need to get it, because it's kind of in a lull right now. Like it got really hot and it's somewhat calmed down. So I need to decide if I'm gonna go in on that book. Because I think at some point that may go back up again. But yeah, I on this series I'm double dipping for the moment. Can't stop, won't stop.
Yeah, no, same here. And I think there is, Tinian never misses. We said that earlier, but honestly, there is something special about Something is Killing the Children. Jesus, you and I have talked about this series a little bit, maybe early on when we first started the show, but I don't think we've brought it up in a few months, and we probably should have. There is just something very unique and special about Something is Killing the Children that really still separates it from an entertainment value even over Tinian's other really phenomenal work. Nice House on the Lake, which I love reading. That's one of those every month when it comes out, I'm reading it right away, which just started back up again. And then the Department of Truth, which is another one that I love reading, but Something is Killing the Children is just above and beyond it. And it's hard to explain why. It just hits differently.
Well, I think because it came out in 2018, right?
That's correct.
It came out in 2018. And
2019. 2019.
Was it 2019? I thought it was 2018.
Well, now we're gonna have to do a research check.
Yeah, we'll have to research it now. But either way, when it came out, I've talked to more than a few comic book shop owners, and they said that it wasn't really
September 2019.
September of 2019. So keep that in mind. September 2019. That it wasn't really moving off the rack. It wasn't really moving off the newsstand or whatever, the shelf, as well as they had thought or expected, or as it is now. Obviously right now it's hot. But then, we went into 2020. We came into lockdown, and I guess there was this existential community issue that we had to go through as everybody. And something that you say, Jake, about this series is that it just caught the zeitgeist at the right time. And so I think, that, lockdown, COVID, everything, everybody being home, being a horror comic book, it just caught wind at the same time. It caught lightning in a bottle, and it just took off, because I think it was like issue, 6 or 7 or somewhere around there, 7 or 8, that it kind of just took off. And then it didn't look back from there, and it gained its audience at that point.
Yeah, because 5 was the lowest print run. Issue 5, I think, was the lowest. Because that book, actually, that's the other book I don't have in 9/8 is 5, the A cover.
Ooh.
It's and that book is like, it's a $500 or $600 book at 9/8.
So you lied to us earlier. earlier
I know,
when you
I'm
said
sorry.
that
It's
you had
two.
them all.
It's two. I'm only missing the two though. Just the
Okay.
two. I got the rest of them.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, Jesus, it's something that I had heard said once when it comes to entertainment is people tend to, when the world is in a shit place, right? Like when we were during the pandemic, people were depressed, people wanted to escape what was going on. And when they want to escape, they will retreat to entertainment. But what they look for is something the complete opposite of the life that they're living in, where Department of Truth almost is a little too close to maybe what we're dealing with, where something is killing the children might really be the reason maybe it hit the zeitgeist at that moment was really good writing, great storytelling, fantastic protagonist, and ultimately it is a monster story. Right? Monsters killing children that adults can't see. And I think that it just, maybe that's what it was. Oh, come on. That's the
I'm feeling the art too.
And the artwork is gorgeous.
You know, the thing you said about Department of Truth too, that might be too close. It's almost satire to an extent. That's why like that movie Don't Look Up did so well at the same time, because it's like
great movie. Gosh.
It's like calling it out, right? And I think that's kind of Department of Truth to an extent. Like how crazy is it, you know, that there's these conspiracies out there, and people really truly believe them. So, but yeah, man, I agree, man. I think that's the entertainment piece of it, and I think that's the reason why, because it and I think we're gonna look back on it and be like, man, this was the COVID juice that something that's killing children got, that kind of like pushed it to its highs.
Well, and we'll see, because when the show comes out, I know that, you know, comic collectors are going to push the books when the TV series comes out or when they announce a trailer or something for it. However, is it going to be universally accepted and supported by the non-comic book readers, the people who have no idea what the series is right now? Will it still hit the same way it hit in 2020?
Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I think the story's strong enough where it should.
It's all about, I think, the execution of it. Like who's directing, who's producing, and is it a creative team that's going to try and really draw from the inspiration of the books? Or every once in a while you get a creative team, they think they're smarter than the source material. Yeah. And just start changing everything.
But they're not. They're not smarter.
But they're definitely not. Yeah.
Although I did like the way they changed the ending of Watchmen. That's just me.
Oh, man, I knew you would say that.
We're not going into it. Aaron, was that
blasphemy? Blasphemy. No.
What was the Something Is Killing the Children trade number 4? Was that your recent pickup, or do you have a different one?
So I picked 2 for every category. I'm terrible. We can just go with that
one.
But
go ahead. Go ahead.
I also picked up an Uncanny X-Men 221 in
Mr.
a 9/6. First appearance of Mr. Sinister.
Yeah.
Book was, I mean, all the X-Men books were really hot several months ago, and then they all kind of came back down to earth a little bit, with the exception of a few of them. And so to be honest, I sold most of my X-Men, and now I'm buying back in. Full disclosure, when some of them got to new pinnacles, I was like,
it's time.
All right, I'm going to sell them all, and I'm going to hope that I'm going to be able to get back in later. And I'm slowly reacquiring, but I just reread House of X, Powers of X. And I just think, I don't know what the MCU is going to do. I don't know what they're going to do.
No, it's coming. It's coming.
I would love to see them draw heavily from the House of X, Powers of X.
I've heard so many people say that,
and I agree. I reading it again for like the 3rd or 4th time. I actually just read Marauders, the first trade paperback, and I really enjoyed Marauders too. I'm so interested in that world. I'm so interested in the New Mutants and the different interactions of the mutants, and it not just being these are the good guys and these are the bad guys, but this complex sort of, they're trying to build their own world. I'm fascinated. So it's actually really drawn me into the X-Men. And it's got me collecting like the first appearances. Also, I needed something new to do because I basically have most of the Batman key first appearances, so need to switch it up. Can't let these Marvel guys think they're the only ones that can have the fun. But
yeah, Jake.
What? I like everything. That's unfair. And you know what? My recent pickup isn't even a Marvel book. So, yeah.
It's independent, isn't it? Isn't it? Yep.
It is independent. And with that said, my recent pickup is West of Sundown, which released on April 6th, written by Tim Seeley, our friend of the show. Tim Seeley and Aaron Campbell. Art by Jim Terry. Oh, see, I love that cover. The artwork, the cover of it kind of actually a little bit reminded me of a Stray Dogs cover because it was the movie poster style. And Stray Dogs really did that a lot, but for their B covers. This is the A cover. And for those listeners out there that aren't familiar, this is Vault Comics is the publisher. It came out, and from what I was told, I think it's doing pretty well. Tim Seeley does a good job of recognizing both the positive and negative reviews for his books on his Twitter. Usually he's saying something rather negative about the person who gave him a negative review, but he does acknowledge that they are out there. And for the sake of not butchering the synopsis of West of Sundown, I decided to type something up real quick, or more or less just steal what the synopsis was, which is a beautiful vampire must flee monster slayers in New York City and reclaim the ancestral soil that restores her undead flesh. So she flees to New Mexico, and there is a more developed story about learning to survive in this new realm, new space, but also it's totally a Western. Like it is straight up a Western. And it reminded me a lot of the first few issues of American Vampire, which I loved American Vampire. We've talked about this on the show before. Scott Snyder, Raphael Albuquerque. I was a huge fan of it. It was one of those series that brought me back from the dead. I had stopped reading for a decade or so and walked back into a comic shop, found American Vampire, along with Batman New 52 and Invincible, were really the three series that I binged them. Like when I found one, I read it, and then I read the next one. But American Vampire was this awesome, starts out as a Western, and then it develops into other types of stories because the characters age. Or don't age, I guess, depending on how you look at it. But in West of Sundown, straight up Western, the artwork is gory and just gorgeously gory. That's what I'm going to say. It's gorgeously gory. So 2 thumbs way up. Definitely recommend everybody go and read it. And of course, we like supporting friend of the show, Tim Seeley, who was awesome. On episode 34.
Yeah, that was my recent pickup in episode 39. Jake picked it up. Jake read it. He agrees. Everybody should read
it. Yeah, okay. That works, I guess.
Jake, so it wasn't your idea. It was just so everyone knows.
Just give me credit that I found this little hole in the wall west of Sundown that nobody knows about.
I'm going to send that clip to Tim. And Tim was actually episode 37, by the way. 37, not 34. Excuse me.
Okay.
All right. So we've got our recent pickups all taken care of. Let's move into the next segment.
Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale.
The Grail Tale segment. This is our favorite segment because we get to put our feet up and just let Aaron take the mic. And away we go.
Sweet. So this was... I always like questions like this because you have to look at your collection and kind of focus. All right, like what's the one book I'm gonna pull out? And there's a lot of classics on the Marvel and DC side that kind of the traditional big books. But I wanted to pull out the one that I'm trying to make more famous, and I think maybe I've made slightly more famous. And that's Detective Comics 259. the first appearance of Calendar Man. You guys can't see this, but I'm holding a 6.5 off-white to white pages. It is from 1958. It is a Bill Finger story, Kurt Swan cover, classic Batman villain. I think popularized somewhat by Batman: The Long Halloween, but he has been in other renditions of Batman. So this book means a lot to me. So I have, I was on a quest for a while to get 12 of these, one for each month of the year, because Calendar Man. I have completed that quest. I have like 5 at CGC right now. At some point, I'm gonna put out a post that'll hopefully break the internet, or at least our portion of it on Instagram. I've given one away, but and actually this book is seeing record sales. I joke around with Ryan from Automatic Comics all the time about this book, because an 8.0, we were talking about this book 3 or 4 months back. We were following one on Heritage. There was an 8.0 or a 7.5, and I think it broke $2,000.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Yeah, so it is no longer a $40 I'm laughing at you book. It is officially a Batman villain to be reckoned with, which was always the plan. It's not like I'm holding a large percentage of the market share or anything.
It's not like you have 12 of them.
Did you buy that 7.5 and set the record? Is that what
I didn't. I didn't. To be honest, I was in at like 1,600. I looked at Ryan. I was like, I'm out. This is like, even I cannot continue at this pace. Someone wants this more than I do, and I respect them for it.
So you're saying you bid it up?
Oh, that's what it was.
But I wanted it though. See, I don't feel like it's bidding up if you actually like.
But
really
you and one
wanted
other
it.
guy, that guy would have got it for like $1,100, $20 if you.
There was bidding. Far more than 2 people bidding on it though. There was a war going on for this book, Jake. But so this book means a lot because when I was first coming back in, the stupid book was impossible to find. It was almost never on eBay, ever. And then I was looking for it for a few months. One popped up on eBay, and it was like a 1.0 copy. It had holes in it. It was shredded. It was an awful copy. It was up for like $70. It was up for $100 for a while. The guy finally dropped it to $70. I bought it. The moment I bought it, someone put up another copy, and it was like a 4.5 for $80, and I was so angry with myself because I had bought the terrible copy, and the presentable copy had showed up. So actually, every time I look at this book, I see like a good comic lesson, which is be patient. Like, if the book isn't the one you want, then don't buy it. Like, there's always another book. But I also just really, I like the cover. I like the way he is a villain I enjoy. I like it when he's integrated into stories. I just really, the Batman Rogues Gallery is just one of my many favorite things about comics. And it is a grail in the sense that in higher grade, the book is, I don't want to call it impossible to find, but it is extremely difficult to find copies above a 6.0. I've seen only 4 or 5 copies ever above a 6.0. It's very difficult to track down.
Is that because it wasn't a very well collected book initially?
I don't know. I think some of it is the old detective books in general are harder to track down. So the early tech books, it's like they were around during that period where like there was, there were paper drives, so they needed them for the war effort. So a lot of the tech books fall into that category. This is later on. So then there was a time period where, like, you know how in every generation we blame something for why kids are the way they are. So like in our generation, it's been video games. There was a period where like everyone was blaming comic books for why children were the way they were. So there were legit like burning parties where they just took massive amounts of comic books and were just like, these are what's ruining kids. So, which is not true. But so I think that's some of it. And then I think some of it too, with a lot of books, like I still think you're in a period where people are getting the books and reading them and circulating them. You don't have as many people just like collecting them and trying to preserve them. So finding higher grade copies, and it's Silver Age, but it's really close to Golden Age. I mean, you're flirting with Golden Age, that 57, 58 period. You're getting very close to what Golden Age is at that point. So I think that's another thing that makes it sort of difficult.
Yeah, but with Silver Age Batman, though, this was pre the Silver Age Batman where they went bonkers with all the writing and they decided they were doing just the craziest stuff ever. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was like less, and it's not like 60s Silver Age either. A lot of the big Silver Age Batman villains are like from that 60s period. Like I'm looking at Poison Ivy and Riddler and stuff right now on the wall. But Mr. Freeze is another
Silver
one.
Age. That's real late Silver Age when Poison Ivy and Two-Face or the Riddler.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, those guys are much later, so it's a different. But like Freeze is kind of in the same category where Mr. Freeze is from like 59, so he's silver, but he's. I mean, you're like right at the line where like if it's a couple years earlier, a few years earlier, he's in the Golden Age. So,
well, who do you think is a better villain, Mr. Freeze or the Calendar Man?
That's tough. I think Mr. Freeze is more iconic and more well known, but I actually think from a detective, and Calendar Man is in detective comics, from like a crime noir perspective, Calendar Man might be the better villain. Like there's multiple storylines where like Batman sort of goes to him. Like this is what happens in Long Halloween. He's going to Calendar Man to try and figure out who is this person killing every month. Like he's trying to, and I actually think it would line up really well with what's going on currently in the most recent Batman movie. Because I mean, they had Riddler and Penguin. I think Calendar Man would slide right into what they're doing. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen. That's not my speculation. But if it did happen, I'd be really pleased about that.
You have 12 copies of this book.
Yeah. I mean, he's already showed up in Suicide Squad. When that news broke, I can't tell you the vindication I felt when it was only for like a 20-second cameo. And I was like, what? I told everyone.
Well, which month would you sell first?
Have
you assigned which month goes to which one of your copies of the book?
Nah, not yet. So I try and have, I don't know. I only have 6 copies on my person presently. The other copies are at CGC. So at this moment, I have only kept the one. I have like a 3.5, a 4.0, a 4.5, a 5.0, a 5.5, and then a 6.5. So it'd be really great to get like a 6.0 and like I'd want to fill out that roster so I have like each grade represented. That would be really, really choice. My wife is rolling her eyes at me at this present moment. She's like, oh man, as if this wasn't nerdy enough. But I have sold a copy on occasion to fund other Batman pursuits. But to be honest, it fits because I do like the character, but it's also really good from a collecting standpoint because it's not the easiest book to find. And I appreciate that a good Batman book that's kind of tougher to find.
And what happened to the first copy you bought? The piece of crap one.
I threw it in a lot and sold it on eBay and took a loss. Yeah, that was a good life lesson. I was honestly, if I had kept it to like right now, I'd probably be able to make money on it because of what they're going for. There's a copy listed on eBay right now for like, I think it's like a 4.0 and the guy wants over $2,200 for it.
It's a 3.5 for $2,200. While you were talking, I looked.
Yeah. There aren't that many copies listed, so you can kind of, I'm not saying you should do that, but to a certain extent, it's easier to do that with this book because there's just a lot less of them. So you sort of, the supply is a factor. But and actually, this is going to tie into one of the next books I'm going to talk about. But Yeah, I think, and we've seen this with Kite Man, right? They announced the possibility of a Kite Man series.
Yep.
And then the first appearance of Kite Man was this book you could pick up for this Silver Age book, really old. You could pick it up for $30, $40, $50. And then this announcement, and it spikes because it's not, and I love Marvel books, but any of the major Marvel keys, if you want one, you can find them. You may have to pay, but they're around.
Yeah.
They're not hard books to find. Some of these Batman books, it's like the news breaks and it's like, okay, go find a copy.
Good luck.
And you just can't. They're not, because when the really hardcore Batman guys get them, they don't sell them. They just don't, like, there's no amount of money. They just don't care.
That's interesting. That's interesting if that's a part of the community that's just like, it's just a void. Once it goes there, once it gets in those hands, it's not leaving because they're so hardcore Batman. And you know what? That's probably also because Tech 27 and Batman 1 are in the vault. They're in the Hall of Fame. They're super hard to get a hold of.
Yeah. Like the real my friend Tim, shout out to you, Tim. He's Off-White Tim over on Instagram. He always says that the problem with being a Batman guy or a DC guy is your books are already out of reach. Batman 1 and Tech 27 are hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. And just for the average collector, those books are gone. They're not.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if I have that kind of money, I'm buying a house or I'm, paying off someone's student loans, or like, I'm not, if I have $500,000, I'm not buying a comic book with it. It's just not what I'm doing. So
no, I agree.
But so you have
I would probably do it. I have to be the one that does it then. I would do it.
Odd man out.
Yeah. Like a year ago, I was thinking about what was a big book that I was gonna go after, and I settled. I was like, all right, I'm gonna try and get a Showcase 22 because it's an expensive book, but it's still, when you consider its age and its importance to the DC universe, it's still relatively tame. And that book is another one in high grade, not many copies. I have a 3.5, and I found someone who was willing to sell it to me at market.
Oh, wow.
Because a lot of people I was talking to, they wanted way over market, like 500 to 1,500 over market. I was like, I don't want to pay that much over. I found someone who was willing to sell it to me at market, and I had to sell it. I mean, I sold off a tremendous amount of my collection to be able to purchase it, because that's the other thing. The other big DC book that's out of reach for a lot of people is Barry, the Silver Age First Flash Showcase 4. So it's like, you can't get Barry and Batman 1, Tech 27, and even a lot of the other random Batman ones, like the first cover appearance of Catwoman, Tech 122. That's a really, really expensive book now. I mean, I think even low grade copies are going to run you $5,000, $6,000, $8,000, $9,000 for like low grade copies. So you just get, honestly, a lot of the Silver Age villains, especially with the importance of, the new Batman movie just came out. So like Penguin and Riddler and Catwoman have all gone up since a couple of years ago. But to be honest, relatively speaking, the Silver Age Batman rogues really haven't gone up the way I think they should. I mean, you can get a first appearance of Scarecrow in 5.0 for like $500. It's $100 a point. And when you consider the importance of that book, I think that's relatively tame when you think about the importance of that character in Batman.
Yeah.
So
what you're saying is, to all the listeners out there who have been chasing the Marvel books for so long, right? Like years, maybe they should be looking at DC books. Did you just take what your YouTube show is about and bring it to Spectales? Is that what you just did?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's plenty more where that came from. Yeah.
Inception. We've been Inception.
Suddenly I feel like I need to go buy some DC books. What am I doing here?
I just you can enjoy such a nice, presentable book at such an affordable rate. And the importance of it is there. Like I remember preaching to friends a couple of years ago, like, go buy the first appearance of Poison Ivy. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, I'm telling you, like, half the time the book is missing the pinup. It's harder to get a high grade copy than you'd think. And it's the true first appearance. It's not like a lot of Silver Age books. It's like, well, this is the Silver Age first appearance, but there's actually a Golden Age appearance. With Poison Ivy, Freeze, that's their first appearance.
That's and she's on the cover too, and it's a red cover, which I have one, but I have it without the pinup, and it's a 0.5, but it should be like a 3.5. It presents a lot better, but because of the pinup, it's a low grade. But my question on those is like Freeze. Freeze is one of my, favorite characters in the Rogue Gallery. I just grew up with him. I grew up with him in the animated series, and then Arnold, all that jazz, right? But him, it's interesting because he had a different name, right? First,
yeah, Mr. Zero,
and so then, and I think whenever that happens, it's kind of confusing. Which one do you go after, Mr. Zero or the first Freeze, Mr. Freeze, and then the Mr. Freeze when he's on the cover as well, right?
Yeah, actually, and it's funny. I don't want to take anyone's thunder, but that is one of the books that I brought tonight. Is Detective Comics 373. This is the first time he's Mr. Freeze and his second appearance, and it's another great cover. That is, I mean, not in high grade so much anymore, but even high grade, this is undervalued. In my opinion, for what it is.
Wait, did you just move into our final segment without us actually transitioning to it? This is unprecedented. We just had a guest try to take my job. Hold on a second. Do you want to change chairs? Do you want this seat now? No, I am just joking. But you bring up a good point. We do need to transition on. Speculation. Until you hear that noise, you're not allowed to give any speculation in this show.
That was not speculation at all. That was an opinion about a book that I think is really cool.
Just cool.
And very affordable. I could potentially rise in price.
Well, since you've already started your speculation segment, Aaron, why don't you go ahead and finish it?
All right. I appreciate it. You guys are great sports. You're great sports. All right. If you can humor me, the other two, I'm going to do these rapid fire. I want everyone to get the most for their money, so to speak. But another one is Batman: The Long Halloween #1. I've got my copy here. So we just saw Carmine Falcone in the new Batman movie. This is the first appearance of Alberto, which a raw copy, I think you can find a raw copy somewhere between $40 and $70, depending on condition. High grade copies are going to run you more. I think a 9.8 has approached the $500 mark. It's around there. I bought this raw quite a long time ago. So that's the other weird thing about being a comic collector, because sometimes people say a high grade book and you're like, you really went out and paid such and such for this. And it's like, no, I've had this book for like 4 years. So that's the other kind of funny thing I had to, and I have to tell that to myself too. Like sometimes when collectors show books, it's like, oh, he's probably had that for a long time. He didn't just recently go out and buy that. But I think it's a character obviously connected with the Falcone family. And I would say that Batman 404, Batman: The Long Halloween #1, The Dark Knight Returns #1, any of these iconic Batman stories, even Court of Owls issue #1, if you can get a high grade copy, I would do it personally. They're still relatively affordable. And oftentimes they have a key character, even if it's a minor character, but they're well written, kind of well beloved stories. And I think they're good buys, especially if you're a Batman person. Yeah. And the other one that I think people are still sleeping on, and I'm going to keep saying it, is Static #1. This book got hot for a little bit when Michael B. Jordan when that announcement came out that he was attached to a possible live action movie in development. It got really hot and then immediately kind of came back down. A 9.8 copy is still extremely affordable considering that character and the success of the cartoon growing up. I watched that cartoon all the time. It was great. Do not wait. Go get a copy. Go get a raw for like $30 or something. It's the first appearance of Static. He's awesome. And if that movie hits, I think people are going to be kicking themselves for not picking up a copy. There is a platinum one as well. I don't know. Such a great book. Go get a copy if you don't have one. Like, people spec on the weirdest Marvel books sometimes for hundreds of dollars, but trying to convince them to spend like $20 or $30 on a marquee DC character sometimes is like pulling teeth. So that is me preaching my DC gospel at the moment. But yeah, that's what I got for you.
Well, DC, I mean, people just have a hard time latching on to an upstart publisher like that, you know, and their character.
Too true.
On the Static, which one are you talking about? Because there's two of them, right? There's like Static 1, the orange copy.
Yeah, and the blue. Yeah, so both of them, I think the orange copy is a little bit, that's the collector's edition one. I think there's slightly more of those. I don't have the numbers in front of me, so don't quote me on that. Both are the first appearance, so honestly, whatever you can get your hands on, I think is great. The platinum one is the really expensive one. It looks just like the orange cover. It's just the Static is like a silver or platinum. That's the only major difference. I don't know. Cool book. Again, I'm biased. I grew up with that character. I just think in live action, if it was done well, it has a lot of potential. It would be cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
I think that's a great addition. I'm going to try and ask something here, and if you got nothing, just say I got nothing. What is one Marvel spec? Just one. Just give me one Marvel spec from you.
House of X 1 and Powers of X issue 1.
Oh, okay.
They have first appearances in them, and
yes, they do.
And if I think is it House of X or Powers of X issue 2? One of those is the origin of Moira McTaggart, as opposed to her first appearance, which is in 96, issue 96 of X-Men.
Yep.
But I think House of X or Powers of X 1, if you find raw copies in the wild, I would buy them. I think it's a very affordable spec, and I think if I was Marvel, and I'm not, but if I was, those are characters I would definitely think about utilizing again and again and again, particularly if we go down the movie road. I think people have spec'd on crazier things in the past couple of years. To me, spec'ing on new X-Men characters just doesn't feel that crazy, especially for the price.
They've got to do something new with those characters, right? Like that's, and also people have been talking about X-Men, right? Like that's going to be a troublesome title for them to use for movies.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons, but House of X sounds like a pretty decent movie title to me.
Yeah, that I 100% agree. 100% agree. And also it's a good story. And a portion of my philosophy on speculating is this a key character? What's the print run? What's the upside? But also, is it a good story? Like when people think about that book, what are like initial reactions? And I think there is a lot of enthusiasm for that initial run, that House of X, Powers of X run. So that feels like a very safe buy, particularly raw. I mean, I would almost think about going out and finding a 9.8 copy if you can, and just sitting it in a long box somewhere and forgetting about it. But we've spec'd on some very peculiar things over the past 2 years and this run of Marvel TV shows and everything else. And that feels safe to me, I guess, in a way.
So more information here. So House of X, #1, originally printed in 2019, written by Jonathan Hickman and art by Pepe Larraz. And the Moira McTaggart origin story is House of X #2, which you had mentioned. When it comes to the covers, I mean, you can get cover A for House of X. I mean, dirt cheap. This is probably sitting in back bins at your local shop. However, if you want to get into some of the more valuable variant covers, the 1 in 500 one, it's a wicked, gorgeous wraparound cover, which is by Mark Brooks. It's gorgeous, but that one is going to be a couple $100 to get a hold of that one raw, most likely. And there's a few other really nice covers, but those are the ones that I would highlight for sure. I think that's a great one. Hey, Zeus, I know it's going to be difficult to follow up Aaron and his 3 fantastic spec books. However, you have to do it.
All right. Well, I have one, and this kind of goes into the Something's Killing the Children that we've talked about. And what if I told you that I can get you something equivalent or better than Something is Killing the Children #1 for $50?
No way.
Would you go for it? Absolutely. I got this right here for you. This is, going on the nostalgia train. Dark Horse presents annual #1 from 1998, the first appearance of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in comic books, going for $50.
Really?
So, yeah, it's going for $50.
That's interesting.
Exactly. See, and what kind of like started the bells ringing for me was the Crow. The Crow #1, which isn't even, I think, the first appearance of the Crow, is going for a ton of money right now, and it's setting records because it's hard to find. It's a black cover, hard to find a 9.8, and it's just going for ungodly numbers right now. And that book came out in 1989 or 88. So this book came out in 1990, the one that I'm talking about, but it's also based on 90s live action stuff or early 2000s, late 90s stuff that came out, but with Vampire Slayer and female protagonists, monsters, vampires, what have you. And they talked about a reboot. Now, there has been some controversy around it with Joss Whedon, previously whenever he made it and all that jazz. But I don't think the reboot's going to be the same people by far. So when it does happen, which I'm sure they're looking at doing it, they've announced it in 2018, that this book is going to go up even more. So again, Dark Horse presents annual #1 from 1998, first appearance of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in comic books. You can get it for between $50, $60, $70. And I just think that's crazy for what that franchise has done, what she means. I mean, the spinoffs they had of it and how big that show was at the time.
Oh, and if it was that big, don't you think that it could come back? Don't you think that they're going to try to resurrect that here pretty soon at some point?
Yeah. I'm saying the reboot was announced in 2018. Then we've gone through kind of COVID and stuff has gone to the back burner, but they announced it for a reason. There's already, a huge fan base. People love that character. People love that show. So I just think it's really, really, really undervalued right now.
Nice. I like it. That's some deep thought there, buddy. That's some good stuff.
That's a solid. I like that.
Yeah, I do some thinking every once in a while.
Yeah, you gotta use your brain. All right. Well, geez, now I feel a little inadequate with my my speculation pick. But the only reason I feel good about it is because I'm actually stealing this from one Mr. Eric Larson, who we recently spoke to on episode 39, and this was not his speculation pick, but he name dropped this book because he collected the original artwork for the entire book. He has cover to cover original artwork for Hulk 156. And that was actually, what did he say? That was his That was his Grail tale, was collecting the entire book, because it was the first book, I believe, that he ever really read. Wasn't that the thing? Or he said he bought it with his own money, and it was his first book, first read. Well, what that book also happens to be is the first appearance of Krylar. Now, this is a kind of deep speculation, but this is a Marvel character that is a villain that is being rumored potentially. There are a few options here, but people are speculating that this could be the character that Bill Murray may be portraying in the upcoming Quantumanium. Now, it is purely speculation. There is nothing stating that it's going to be. However, this character does play well within the Quantumanium realm. There are a few reasons why you could look at it. You could read the character and say, I could see if they're going into the microverse, the quantum realm, this could be a character that you'd want to look into for Bill Murray. So because of that, and couple that with, it's not an expensive book. Even with the small amount of speculation that's out there, the book is not overly pricey, and there are very few of them actually graded. So this could be a great book to go out and find raw, and you might be, I mean, it's an Incredible Hulk book. It was printed in 1972, and I think there are going to be a lot of there are going to be quite a few copies out there still in existence. There's a lot of Hulk runs out there, and Hulk runs that you can find pretty cheap, actually. And so 104 total, 113 total graded copies of this book. You're not going to find a lot of graded ones, and I would almost recommend don't go looking on eBay for this book. Go looking locally. There are going to be copies around. And that's probably going to be the best way to find it. And you can get a good copy of this for $20-$50. And it might be worth just storing until we find out a little bit more about it. You know, is this going to be the character portrayed by Bill Murray or not? But I really just liked it. After Eric brought it up, I looked a little bit more into it, and then I looked a little bit more into it, and I said, holy cow. Not only was it a cool story from him, it's actually a spec book.
He loved the Herb Trimpe artwork on it. That was one of his favorite artists, along with Jack Kirby. But yeah, it was a pretty cool Grail tale. And that's a good spec book, man.
I'm trying to imagine. That's crazy having a book cover to cover in original art. That's wild.
Yeah. How he was able to accomplish it. So apparently somebody else pretty much already had almost all of it. I believe he only had to go out and find the cover separate. So somebody had basically the whole book except the cover. He bought that. And then down the road, he was able to eventually find the cover, and then he put it together. But just to accumulate all the original artwork for a book is dedication.
1972.
Yeah, exactly.
Bruce Wayne money. Buy things that aren't for sale.
Oh, we should have used that when we talked to Larson. Damn, that's a good one. But that's what I got for speculation. And I don't want to turn this into a competition, but I feel like if it was, I think I won this time around. unless you guys want to argue with Eric Larson. I don't know if you want to argue with Eric Larson.
Eric Larson's not here, and if by when you mean lose, and obviously yes, you're the number one loser in the spec category.
I'm gonna tell Mr. Larson you said that.
That's twice you're telling previous guests on me, Jake. What is this? What's going on here?
Well, you can't go insulting previous guests the way that you are. You insulted Tim, and you insulted
Jake.
Mr. Larson.
Jake. I'm insulting Jake, and Jake is taking it to the guests so I can get a reprimand or something.
Well, you're going to get a sternly worded letter is what you're going to get.
Add it to the list, Jake. Add it to the list.
All right. That is going to do it for this episode of Spec Tales. Aaron, thank you so very much for coming on the show. It was a lot of fun, and you really brought it when it comes to the DC books. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you guys having me on again. You guys are a blast, and I love talking about this stuff. It's a great time. So thank you so much.
Thank you, man. We appreciate you joining us. We appreciated you on Floppy. So again, thank you for that. That was awesome. And you'll be hearing more of me because I'm always the champion in everything that I do. So I'll let you know how. As long as you beat Jake, you should be fine, dude.
We'll have to update everybody on the points total here pretty soon.
I think we're all really just trying to beat Ryan, right? I mean, that's what I'm here for.
Yes.
As long as we take down Automatic Comics, I'm good. I can deal with the rest of it.
All right. And if you all want to find Aaron on the internet, Aaron, where can they find you?
I'm AA Comics everywhere. So the letter A and comics on Instagram and AA Comics on YouTube. I have an email as well. If there's someone 60 in the crowd who still uses email and wants to reach out to me that way, I respond. And if you send me a strongly worded letter, I will frame it and brag to people that someone felt strongly enough to write me a strongly worded letter. So
you heard it here. Send all sternly worded letters if you did or did not enjoy this episode of Spec Tales to Aaron over at AA Comics. If you would like to reach out to Jesus and I, you can find us on Twitter at SpecTalesPod or on Instagram at Spec_Tales_podcast. Thanks again, everybody. Have a good week.